Tēnā, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if National's idea of leadership is chaos, confusion and empty promises, they're on track for a clean sweep in health. But the real losers here are everyday Kiwis. There are some givens in our community. Kiwis who are unwell expect to get healthcare. Kiwis who need to see a doctor expect to be able to see a doctor. Kiwis who need emergency healthcare expect and deserve to get it. Mr. Speaker, the same can be said. If you are one of the 90,000 workers in our health sector in Te Whatu Ora, you should be able to expect two things. One, that there is a clear health plan, something that you can focus on, something you can deliver and hold yourself accountable to. The other thing they expect, Mr. Speaker, is clear leadership. Clear leadership. And we are not seeing that from this government. And we've just seen, Mr. Speaker, in the last few days that we have received the resignation of Maji Apa. And just in recent hours, in the recent day, Mr. Speaker, another resignation of another senior health official, and Dr. Jones. Mr. Speaker, this is a problem for New Zealanders. This says that under this government, the leadership is walking away from the most important and critical sector of our country, the health sector, Mr. Speaker. And what we know about leadership is it starts at the very top. What we know is that this government has continued to change and undermine the leadership of health in this country and have left it in chaos, Mr. Speaker. We know that Maji Apa's resignation, Dr. Jones's resignation, are only two of the high-profile ones. We know that there are so many more in the health sector who have already walked away. And where do they go, Mr. Speaker? Well, we know a large amount of them have gone to Australia. They've gone to Australia and they've gone overseas to look for health opportunities because they are not cared for, they are not respected, and they do not have the leadership they deserve here in their own country, Mr. Speaker. We know that leadership starts at the top. What we can say is, sadly for Maji Apa, her leadership was undermined from the very start. From this government who came into power, they made it very clear that they did not back Maji Apa. Mr. Speaker, the former health minister was asked whether or not he had confidence in Maji Apa and her leadership, Mr. Speaker, and he made it clear that he didn't. In fact, he tried to brush off his responsibility as the health minister, simply saying that, oh, that's for the board to worry about. Mr. Speaker, I come back to the point. Health and leadership starts at the very top, Mr. Speaker. Then what happens is Mr. Reti, the former minister, appoints a commissioner in health, another person who will not publicly back our senior health official. Continually undermine our senior health official. That simply is not good enough for New Zealanders or for the large health sector workforce. And not only did the Commissioner undermine Maji Apa, he also did it publicly. He did it in select committee hearings, he did it through the media, and refused a one-on-one conversation to support Maji Apa in the important role that she had to lead our health sector, Mr. Speaker. What we know is that the national health system is on its knees. It's in chaos. And what we have not seen from this government or the leadership is a plan on where they're taking the health sector. Mr. Speaker, we've had a change of minister. And in this time, for the most critical sector in New Zealand, the minister has yet to spell out a plan, has yet to even back his leadership to make sure that the health sector has the leadership that it deserves, Mr. Speaker. In fact, there are so many more questions, but we want to focus on the reason for this urgent debate, Mr. Speaker. And that is that Mr. Simeon Brown, as the Minister of Health, has failed to support the leadership. And what we know, Mr. Speaker, is Kiwis have a long memory. They'll look at this current minister and this current government and know that they aren't getting the services that they need and they deserve, Mr. Speaker. What we know from this government, so far the plan is this: underfunding, understaffing. And now we see from the very top resignations in our leadership, Mr. Speaker, continually undermining the health sector in this country. What might Kiwis be able to expect from this minister, Mr. Speaker? Well, if this continues, the question must be asked, will he resign? Because if the leadership cannot get on with the important job of leading the health sector in this country, it comes back to the point I made earlier about the leadership starting at the very top. And what this country is not seeing from this minister or this government is that leadership. Mr. Speaker, there was large bluster at the beginning of last year about making health amazing, bringing it back on track. Well, Mr. Speaker, this government has failed to do that. And now we see with recent resignations that they will struggle to have the leadership to be able to do that now and into the future, Mr. Speaker. A person like Maji Apa, a person like Dr. Jones aren't easily replaceable, Mr. Speaker. We know that their leadership for this country through the COVID pandemic was absolutely critical in the world-class response that this country had in responding to COVID and the pandemic, Mr. Speaker. Maji Apa has led health initiatives across Auckland, the biggest city in this country. She's made sure that they receive the health care that they deserve in her time leading that particular region. She then steps into the job of leading this country, Mr. Speaker, and she did a fantastic job. In fact, by my reckon, Mr. Speaker, and in my time as an Associate Health Minister, she was instrumental in making sure that Kiwis got the health care that they deserve. Now, did Maji Apa get the support that she deserved? The answer is no. Now, did Maji Apa and her leadership team get the support that they deserve from this government? The answer is absolutely not. They were used as a scapegoat. Eventually, Mr. Speaker, this government will run out of people to blame for the state of our healthcare, Mr. Speaker. They will continue to run out of people to blame because leaders in the health sector are walking away from their passion, the sector that they're most passionate about, because of a failure of leadership from this government. Now, Mr. Speaker, we've heard a lot from this government, looking back and blaming Labour and blaming past governments, Mr. Speaker. We stood up during a difficult time through COVID-19. Furthermore, we provided a clear direction for the health sector. We provided leadership for the health sector. And what have we got from the other side? Cuts, underfunding, understaffed. Mr. Speaker, what we've also seen in recent times from this government is a flip-flop on targets in health. They told the country that we're going to give you timely health care. And then all of a sudden they realise, oh, it actually requires strong leadership, and then we're not going to be able to deliver on that. So we see a turn back or a wind back on their promises to this country with respect to healthcare, Mr. Speaker. Once again, this starts at the very top. So there are questions that Minister Brown must answer for Kiwis today. What is the plan? Why doesn't he back the leadership of our health sector? Why isn't Mr. Brown providing a plan to this country to bring our health sector back to a world-class health sector that our country deserves, Mr. Speaker? For the last part of my contribution, I want to acknowledge Margie Upper. I want to acknowledge Dr. Nicholas Jones. And I want to acknowledge all of the healthcare workers in this country who are doing it tough. They have a government that doesn't back them. They have a government that continually pulls the rug out from underneath them to provide healthcare for this country. Mr. Speaker, I want to acknowledge Margie Upper, Dr. Jones for their leadership and their leadership through difficult times in this country. My hope is that in their new endeavours, their new chapter, they receive the support that they so richly deserve as leaders of our health sector in this country, Mr. Speaker. And what we need to hear from this government is a clear plan and where they're taking our health sector. Because right now, we have workforce right up and down this country extremely unhappy in their roles, not clear on who's coming and who's going. We have a health sector that are told that they cannot actually hire more people despite being clearly stressed in their job. We know, for example, Mr. Speaker, that in one region alone, very close to this House, there are over 600 vacancies. 600 vacancies. So we have to ask the question, are Kiwis getting what they deserve in health? From this government, the answer is absolutely not. So finally, Mr. Speaker, to those who work hard in our health sector, I say thank you. Thank you for working hard in our communities. Thank you for continually looking after Kiwis every single day. This government won't back you, but I can tell you what, the Labour Party will.
Well, that's a bit of a fiery 10-minute speech from Peeni Henare.
I don't know if you saw the little factoids that I put up across the screen, but that came from the New Zealand Medical Journal. That was a paper that was released last year, and I've put the link in the chat so everyone can read it. Nice. I can put it in again. Just give me 2 seconds. I've also got some stats too about targets, which I might bring up a bit later when Simeon Brown gives his speech. So there you go, guys, in the chat. There's the link. I highly recommend everyone reads it because it's quite an eye-opener, the amount of doctors that are leaving.
Yeah.
And my health hasn't been good and timely so far, just so you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what I think we also need to, I mean, this is kind of old news, in that since this, we've actually had the resignation of the Director General of Health as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
this is from Tuesday.
So what you've got is they sacked the entire board of Health New Zealand, replaced it with basically a used car salesman, Lester Levy, who I know from back in the days when he was running South Canterbury Health, and his claim to fame then was when hospitals had deficits, because when we corporatised hospitals back in the late mid 1990s, and actually brought in this voodoo stuff called accrual accounting, where they actually had to have proper books and a balance sheet. The first thing we found, because this is such a huge neoliberal conspiracy, the first thing we found was that all the hospitals were bankrupt. And suddenly, you know, and so Lester was famous for getting South Auckland healthcare into a surplus by basically asset sales. And he's dined out on that ever since. And he's written books. One of them is called The Whirlpool Effect. And I'm sure that's a great management text. I'm sure that's being, the John F. Kennedy School of Government is no doubt using that as a key tome with a name like that. But you know, so what you've got is they've gone and sacked the board of Health New Zealand. They've now gotten rid of the chief executive. They've gotten rid of the Director General of Health, and the Director of Public Health has gone as well. I mean, there's not that many people left.
I think it says a lot, Peter, when you've got people that are resigning that were there during COVID-19.
Yeah, exactly.
They would rather deal with an overstressed system than deal with Simeon Brown. I think that's pretty clear.
And the thing,
I don't blame them.
And I mean, Simeon Brown, you know, this is where he's going to work out really quickly that you just can't do feel-good things like, okay, this is an 80 kilometre area, we're going to make it a 100 kilometre area because my constituencies like driving their ranges at 100. And the whole idea of actually taking 32 seconds longer across a 5 kilometre stretch of road is just the end of Western civilization as we know it. That sort of level of thinking doesn't work within health systems. They're really complex beasts.
Yeah. You actually do make the point, like considering Captain Expressway, the 110k speed limit is a 90-second time saving. But if you're a truck, there is no time saving because you're not allowed to do more than 90 k's.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook.